Okay, I believe we are live and we are ready to go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Chitas today on February 21st. We're going to start off a new Parsha, V'at Tetzaveh, Parshas Tetzaveh, and it's going to be a great week. Emir Tzashem, God willing. Okay.
It is.
Yep. Chapter 27. V'at Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael v'yikru elech Hashem en zayis zach kasis lamar lahalos ner tamid. You should command the Jewish people, and they shall take pure olive oil, crushed for lighting, to candle the lamp tamid, continuously. V'at Tetzaveh, what does it mean? Zach, pure, without, it says shemen zayis zach, or zach, without any sediment. We have to make sure that the oil doesn't have any sediment. Kasis, crushed. You crush the olives in a mortar. He may not grind them in a mill, because if you do it in a mill, then it will actually have sediment. So to make sure, you have to first do it in a mortar. After he has extracted the first drop of oil, he places the olives into a mill and grinds them. The resulting second oil is unfit for the menorah, but is fit for meal offerings, and is stated crushed for lighting, but not crushed for meal offerings. So there was a different standard for different things in the Beis HaMikdash, what the oil can be used for. So if, for example, you the first drops of the oil that had no sediment in it, that can be used for the ner. And the crushed part that, secondary crushing that had some sediment in it can be used for other tasks in the Beis HaMikdash. La lois ner tamid, that it should light continuously. Literally, it means la'alais literally means to cause to rise. The kohen shall light it until the flame rises by itself. The flame should be able to light by itself. Tamid, what does tamid mean? Kol laila v'laila, every night. That's what's called tamid. And Rashi brings a bunch of other examples where tamid means the entire night. But pasuk 21. Ba'oil moed michutz lapareches asher ala edus yarech oisei aron avanav me'erev ad boker lefnei Hashem chukas olam deroisa me'es bnei Yisrael. This is in the oil moed, in the tent of meeting outside of the pareches, the divider, that is in front of the edus, what they call the testimony. Aaron and his sons lighted up before Hashem from evening till morning, an everlasting sign for generations from the children of Israel. Me'erev ad baiker. How did they know how they figured out to a science how much oil is needed? And the sages estimated that this is a half a lug. A lug is between 6, and I see over here it says, I thought it was 6 and 10, 6 and 10.6 fluid ounces. That's how much oil they knew. That's for the longest nights of the months of Teves, and they would put that amount in for all the nights, because it doesn't make a difference if there's left over. If any of it remains, it does not matter. So that's how much they would put. That can burn for any night of the year. Chapter 28. V'ata hakre v'lechas arnachicha v'ezbanav ite miteich b'nei Yisrael l'chanei li Aaron nadav aviu Elazar v'Itamar b'nei Aaron. After, once you've done this, as Rashi says, after you complete the work of the Mishkan, then you should gather Aaron and his sons, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. And you shall make special garments. That's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the Chitas today, the special garments that the kohen is wearing. You can see the picture that I posted up. I've got a few more sneak peek pictures of the garments of the kohen. and we've got some interesting stuff coming up. So, what are the garments? And you shall speak to all the wise-hearted whom I filled with the spirit of wisdom, and they shall make Aaron's garments to serve me. Who? To sanctify him, to initiate him into the kahuna through these garments, so that he should be a kohen to me. The expression of kahuna means service. And in Old French, I don't know if I'm even going to try to figure that out in Old French. Sergeantary. But basically, these when you're wearing the big day kahuna, it's kaddish. It makes it's a way that it's to sanctify the kohen, and so that he can serve in the Beis Hamikdash. You obviously cannot serve unless you're wearing this big day kahuna. Okay, ve'ela abgadim. These are the garments asher yasu that you should make. Chayshen, the chayshen. Let's take a sneak peek of the chayshen. If I have, I have a chayshen right here. It's this middle thing right over here with all the stones in it. The ephod. See if we have an ephod. Right here is the ephod. It's kind of, the ephod is made up of straps and the avnei shoyem, which were stones at the top of each strap. It had a belt, and then it had the main part of the ephod, that thing that wraps around. Let's go back. Umi'il, a robe. Uksoines, the tunic with checkered tashbis matznefes va'avnei va'asu bigdei kodesh la'aron achicha ulvanav l'chayin. So you have the chayshen, the ephod, the robe, the tunic, the cap, the sash, and all these should be given for Aaron and his sons who will serve me. Chayshen, the chayshen was directly opposite his heart. As you can see from where the chayshen, going back to this picture, it's directly opposite the heart, higher up, not like over your stomach, but higher up is where it was hanging, and it was connected. We're going to explain. The ephod. Let's read some Rashi. I did not hear that it was a garment. I have no tradition concerning the ephod, and I did not find the explanation of its patterns in the Brisa. My heart tells me that the Kohen Gadol was girded with the ephod from behind, its width being like the width of an average man's back, similar to a kind of apron. Let's go back to the picture of the ephod just so we can look at it at the same time. Right here, you can see the ephod in this picture. And this picture actually shows also the back of the ephod, how it would wrap around and you would tie it, kind of like an apron that someone might wear in the kitchen. Just that the front looks different. But from the back, it ties the same way. Let's go. Thus we learn that the ephod was a belt. It is impossible, however, to say that it was only a belt, because it is said, and he put the ephod on him, and afterwards he girded him with a band of the ephod, which means that there must be, first of all, a band, and second of all, an ephod. So therefore, the ephod had two parts to it. Thus we learn that the cheshiv was only the band, and the ephod was a separate decoration. Okay. So basically, Rashi is just explaining that the ephod had two parts to it. It had this front part, and it had a strap, belt kind of thing, to keep it sturdy and wrap it around you. Me'il, the robe. Let's find the me'il. Right here, the me'il, the robe. It is a kind of tunic, as is the kseines, only that the kseines is worn next to his flesh, and the me'il is the outside robe. So we have two things. We have the kseines. This is the kseines, the tunic, and the tunic had a special design on it that we're going to read in next Rashi, the checkered work. And the difference between the kseines, the tunic, and the me'il, the robe, is that one was inner garment and one was an outer garment. The kseines was right on your body, was the inner garment, and the me'il, the robe, was an outer garment. Let's look at the kseines now, a checkered work made of boxes for beauty. The boxes are similar to holes made in golden jewelry as a setting for precious stones and pearls. It is said regarding the aphid stones enclosed in gold settings. In Old French, it is called chastines, settings. The boxes of the checkered work of the tunic are like settings for precious gems. Something like this. The next thing, a hat, a cap, a type of dome-shaped hat. Let's go back right there. Type of dome-shaped hat called kufia in Old French, because elsewhere the Torah calls them makba'os, and the Targum Onkelos renders them koivim. So we know from the way Targum Onkelos explains it that this is what the hat looked like. And a sash, this is a belt on the tunic, and the ephod is the belt on the robe, as we find in the order they were put on. So we know from the order that the pasuk says what was first and what was second. Big day kodesh, holy garments, from the offering sanctified for my name. They shall make it. They should make it. Big day kodesh. Okay, pasuk hey. They should take gold, blue, purple, crimson, wool, and linen. Who's they? They shall take. Where those wise-hearted people who are to make the garment shall receive them from the donors, the gold and the blue wool from which to make the garments. But also as a ephod, zahav, techeles, v'argama, and tailas, shni, v'sheish, masar, masay, choshev. They should make the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, and twisted fine linen, the work of a master weaver. Okay, let's get into this Rashi. But also as an ephod, and shall make the ephod. If I would try to explain the making of the ephod and the choshen according to the order of the verse, their explanation would be fragmentary, and the reader would err in combining them. Therefore, I'm writing first how they were made as it was in its entirety, so that the reader will be able to run through it quickly. Afterwards, I will explain it how they were made according to the sequence of the verse. The ephod was designed like a sort of apron worn by women who ride horseback. And he, the Kohen Gadol, will gird himself with it from behind, like we showed in that picture. Let's go back to it. Right here. From behind, opposite the heart, below his elbows. Below his elbows. Its width equaling to the width of a man's back and more. And the ephod would reach his ankles. This actually does not look like it's going all the way down to his ankles, but I guess that's where it's supposed to go. The belt was attached to the top of to the top of it across its width. It was the work of a weaver and extended on both sides in order to wrap the Kohen Gadol and gird him with it. The shoulder straps, let's find these are the shoulder straps, but we can right here we can see the shoulder straps. The shoulder straps were attached to the belt, one to the right and one to the left from the Kohen Gadol, at the two ends of the width of the apron. When he held them, the shoulder straps upright, they lay flat on his two shoulders. They were like, I envisioned them a little bit like suspenders. They were straps made of the same material as the ephod, and they were long enough to place them upright alongside his neck on either side. They were folded in front of him, slightly below his shoulder. The shoham stones, this is the avnei shoham, they're right at the end of each of the straps. The shoham stone, oops, I lost my pictures. The shoham stones were set in them, one on the right shoulder strap and one on the left shoulder strap. The settings were placed at their ends in the front of his shoulders, and the two golden chains were inserted into the two rings of the shoham at the two ends of its upper width, one on the right and one on the left. So going back to the picture of how it's right here, you see these golden, what do they call them over here? Golden chains. These golden chains, they connected to the shoham straps of the ephod, to the shoham stones that are on the ephod. Okay, that's basically, Rashi continues in that similar vein. Okay, of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool and twisted fine linen. These five substances were twisted into each thread. It's not that they were separate, it's that each thread was made up of all of these materials and colors. the workers, flattened the gold into a sort. How do you get gold, right? Into wool and linen, is that they would flatten the gold into a sort of thin plate and cut cords out of them and spun them. 1 thread of gold with 6 threads of blue wool, and 1 thread of gold with 6 threads of purple wool, and similarly with the crimson wool, and similarly with the linen. For the threads of all kinds were doubled, 6-fold, and 1 thread of gold was twisted with each one. Afterwards, he would twist them all together. Thus, their threads were doubled into 28 strands, because it was 6 for a gold with each of these, with 6 of each of these. And okay, all right. Next Rashi, Master Chayshev, the work of a master weaver. I've already explained that this is the weaving of 2 walls, and that the figures of its 2 sides are unlike one another. Just like always, when they did the weaving, it was 2 separate kind of things, unlike, let's say, your shirt, which is just one material. Over here, it's 2 walls, 2 materials next to each other. Steak seifais chayvrais yulai esnei ktsesav v'chubar. It shall have 2 connected shoulder straps at both its ends, and it shall be entirely connected. 2 shoulder straps. Rashi already kind of explained this, but the 2 shoulder straps, the apron was below, and the chayshov of the ephod was the belt. It was connected to the apron at the top, similar to the apron of a woman, and at the kohen's back was connected by 2 pieces attached to the chayshov, like 2 wide straps on opposite each shoulder. He lifted these over his shoulder so that they hung in front of him on his chest. And through them being attached to the rings of the breastplate, they were held in place. Exactly like you see in this picture, the ephod was able to hold the chayshach, this stone the breastplate that holds all the stones. It was able to hold it exactly in place, right? Because these gold chains are connected to it, and you can tighten it or loosen it to make it the height that you would like. V'chaver, and it shall be connected, and it shall be entirely connected. The ephod with these 2 shoulder straps of the ephod should be completely connected. He shall connect them by sewing them with a needle below to the band, and he shall not weave them together with it, but weave them separately and then connect them. So it's not one garment, it's 2 separate garments that are later on connected. V'cheishev afudaisai asher olav k'maseu mimenu yizav tcheles v'argam v'salah shni v'sheish master, and its decorative band, which is above it, shall be the same work: gold, blue, purple, crimson wool, and twisted fine linen. V'cheishev afudasai, and its decorative band. What are we talking about? The belt by which the ephod decorates and enhances the kohen and adorns him. Asher olav lamaila, above, at the edge of the apron was the belt. Kima aseyu, same work, just as the weaving of the apron was the work of a master weaver, and the 5 kinds of different materials, so was the weaving of the band the work of a master weaver and 5 kinds of materials. Mimenu yiyeh, it shall be woven with it, and he shall not weave it separately and attach it. Oh, so the belt, unlike what we said before, the belt should actually, the shoulder straps and the ephod were to be woven separately and then attached, but the belt and the ephod were to be woven together from the start. Pasuk Tes, oh wow. Okay, Pasuk Tes, you shall take the 2 shoam stones and engrave upon them the names of the sons of Israel. Now we're going to talk about the Shisha Mishmain al Evan Echas. So we're talking about right now the ephod, I believe. 6 of their names on 1 stone. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Avnei Shayam, the 2 stones of the Avnei Shayam also said all the children of the Bnei Yaakov. Oh, and also we're gonna learn also that the breastplate also had 1 stone every stone had a name. But over here, the 2 stones at the top, it had 6 names on one and 6 names on the other one. What does it mean according to their births? according to the Rashi says, according to the order in which they were born, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Dan, Naphtali on one, and on the second one, Gad, Asher, Yisachar, Zvulun, Yosef, Binyamin, spelled full Binyamin. Okay. Maise pasuk Yud Aleph. Maise charash even pituchem paisam betachas es shtei avanim al shnei bnei Yisrael es al shmois bnei Yisrael mesabois mishpitzais zav tasais. Similar to the work of an engraver of gems, similar to the engravings of a seal. You shall engrave the two stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall make them enclosed in gold settings. So what is it? The engraver of gems? The work of a craftsman of precious stones. Okay, next Rashi. The letters are engraved inwardly, as they engrave the seals of signets, which are used to seal letters. I guess you might have thought that it was popping out. So instead, Rashi's explaining that it was actually indented. Al shmois k'moi bishmois, with their names. Misabas or misabois mishboitzais, enclosed in settings, in gold settings. The stone shall be enclosed in gold settings, that he would make the seat of the stone in gold, like a sort of hole. Basically like prongs, like a way to hold the diamond, to hold the stone. The precious stone, you'd make a gold setting to put it into, according to the measurement of the stone, and sink the stone into the setting. Thus the setting would encircle the stone. The settings would be attached to the shoulder straps of the ephod. So the stone goes into the gold setting, and the gold setting is attached to the ephod, to the straps of the ephod at the top. The Samte shtei avonim al kispoi da ephod avnei zichron lebnei Yisrael v'naso Aaron es shmoisam lefnei Adonai lefnei Hashem al shtei kseifav lizikaron. You shall put the two stones upon the shoulder straps of the ephod as stones of remembrance for the sons of Israel, and Aaron shall carry their names before the Lord upon his two shoulders as a remembrance. As a remembrance, that the Holy One blessed be will see the tribes written before him, and he will remember their righteousness. All right, what a Chumash and Rashi. Let's go to the Tanya of today. Okay. So in today's Tanya, in the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe taught that when one is bitterly remorseful over his sorry spiritual state, specifically, he must strive for joy by considering the following. And we talked about this actually on Friday as well. True that on account of his body and his animal soul, we are totally remote from Hashem, from godliness. Yet he has within him a nefesh alakis, a divine soul, and that soul is a part of Hashem. And the nefesh alakis, this soul, is in exile within the body, and the animal soul is we pity it that it's stuck, that it's in the state that it is. So therefore, you should strive continuously to release it from exile and return it to its divine source by doing Torah mitzvahs. Such a return will bring great joy, and the greatest joy, the joy of freedom. So the knowledge that the body and the animal soul remain in this unfortunate state should not disturb one's joy on account of his divine soul, for the soul should be infinitely more precious in one's eyes. So, okay, we have the beauty of the divine soul and the joy that we get from the fact that we know that the divine soul comes from Hashem, is a part of Hashem, and that we're going to free it and return it. And that joy should not be overshadowed by the pain of knowing what the body and the animalistic soul is going through. Let's look into what the Alter Rebbe says. By doing what we just said, that your body is you view your body with scorn and contempt. Rak simchas, itia simchas, hanefesh lavadai, and the joy that you have is in the soul alone. Hareze derech yishara, v'kala, lovely dikiyum mitzvah v'hafta l'reach kamoicha l'chol nefesh miyisrael l'migadol v'ad katan. This is an easy and direct path to do the mitzvah of v'hafta l'reach kamoicha, of loving your fellow as yourself. And when we say l'reacha, we mean every single yid. Migadol at katan, from great to small, and like it says in the spiritual stature, in spiritual sense. It doesn't make a difference, right? Right? Because once you start viewing every single Jew not by their body and their animalistic soul, but by their nefesh alekis. Who knows whose nefesh alekis, whose godly soul is greater than someone else's? B'sharsham and makaram, in its source and root. Nobody. We don't know what level somebody's nefesh alekis is, and therefore we have to love every single yid. B'shagam shekulam mas'imois v'av echad lekulam. They're all equal, and they all have one father, one source, and within their source, they all comprise one entity. Nikru kol Yisrael achim mamish. That's why all of the Yidin are called brothers, mamish, in the full sense of the word. Mitzad shersham nafsham b'Hashem echad. Rak shagufim mechulakim. That's why we're called achim, we're called brothers, literally, because from our shoresh, from our source, from our nefesh alakis, we are one. We all come from Hashem. It's just that our bodies are distinct from one another. And this explains how it's possible to demand that one should love his fellow as he loves himself. Self-love is innate, natural to man. Love for one's fellow is not. So how can you say that you should love someone like you love yourself? It seems like it's an impossibility. But according to what we just explained, it's much more easily understood. One Jew need not create a love for another. The love is already there because we're brothers. We all have a soul that comes from God. And there's a root in godliness which is common to all the souls. So it is as natural as the love between brothers. L'chein ha'osim gufam ikar v'nafsham tfeilam, those who make their guf the primary thing, and their soul the secondary thing. If you're gonna make the body as your main thing, then it's impossible to have complete ava v'achva, complete love for your fellow. It's got to be based, that love must be based on an external factor. If your ikar, if the main thing is the soul, and the souls are all coming from the same place, you can have that ava not dependent on anything. This is what Hillel said on doing this mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Zeu kol ha'Torah kula v'iduch perushahu. This is the entire Torah. The rest is but commentary. And actually, we put it when we were doing our teen lounge, going off topic just for a second, we put this exact quote onto the wall. If you come into Chabad, into the teen lounge, you're going to see, because this is so important to remember. The entire Torah is this thing, is this statement. The rest is just commentary. Ki yisoid v'sherish kol ha'Torah hu lagbia ulahalos hanefesh al haguf me'ala ad ikra v'shorsham l'chol olmin. Because the basis and root purpose of the entire Torah is to elevate and exalt one's soul high above the body to Hashem, the source and root of all the worlds. V'gam lahamshech orin tzev baruch hu b'knesses Yisrael k'mo sheyispar lekaman. Dahainu b'mkor nishmas kol Yisrael lemeheve echad be'echad dafka. And also to draw down. So the first thing, and also to draw down the infinite light, Ein Sof, into in the Knesset Yisrael, into the community of the Yidden, meaning into the souls of all of Yisrael, so that God and Yisrael should be united as one. Not, God forbid, that there should be disunity between souls. For God does not dwell in an imperfect, fragmented place. Like we say in our davening, bless us, our Father, all as one with the light of your countenance, indicating that the light of God's countenance can be revealed only when we are united all as one, as explained elsewhere at length. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the Chumash and the Tanya. Let's start with the Tanya. We explained that what we had talked about earlier about how you have to just let the body, you have to understand that the body is in a distant state from Hashem, but the soul is not. The soul is actually one with Hashem. When we come to that understanding, it will actually greatly enhance our v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha, our love for a fellow Jew, because when is love dependent only on exterior or ulterior motives? And when can you say, that's one point. And also, when can you say, oh, this person spiritually, you could say this person is low or this person is high? It's only if you're looking on the outer aspects of a person. When you're looking at the inner aspects of a person, nobody knows what the inner aspects, the nefesh halikis of a person is. We have to treat every single person like they have the greatest soul, as they do. And going also for v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha in the most physical sense, going in the most physical sense, once we are ki'ish echad, and once we are like one, then we have leaving a space for the Eibishter to give his blessings to us. Okay, and let's go to over here for the Chumash. We basically mostly talked about, first we talked about the olive oil and how it has to be created. Then we talked about how the Aaron and his children should be dressed. The ephod, the cheshech, the straps, and the avnei shayam, the stones, the stones that go on to the tunic or onto the ephod. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope I enjoyed the learning today. I hope you did as well. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
You too.